Listen, we have learned over the last couple years in doing these podcasts, we are only interested in bringing you the companies that have an impact on what's occurring in real estate and technology today. And today is a company that is not only saving money in the field, changing the insurance business, and also survived coronavirus. Why? Because there's a real change and they're making it happen. Sit down, pay attention. My boy Omer is here from brand new branding, BiltOn. Thank you for coming.
That's why we're here, bro. This is real tech talk. Boom shakalaka.
So who the hell are you, bro?
You know, what are you into? What do you do? Yo, you can keep it real here. Tell me about these real estate players.
Eric Brody is the managing principal of CEMVC LLC. All opinions expressed by Eric and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of CEMVC LLC. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions. Clients of CEMVC LLC may maintain positions in the securities discussed in this podcast.
Welcome back, peeps. This time, we're pivoting back to my favorite, construction technology. As you know, values got rocked in our space, down 80% in valuations, 80% in funding. But there are those few, the proud, construction technologies that survived the downturn, and there has to be a reason why. And this company's taking over so much. They got so popular, they had to make a name change. So everyone say what's up to my boy Omer, and it's BiltOn, formerly Betty. Omer, thank you for coming through, player.
Thank you, Eric. It's a pleasure. We planned for a long time, and
yeah, you've been ducking me. You know what I'm saying? I get it. You got to duck and move when you're busy. You know. So listen, we changed up the format, and we're gonna dive right into what it is that you're doing, and then afterwards, I want to know why you came to this space as a person. Okay. So what is BiltOn doing in one sentence for everyone out there that needs to understand what it is you're solving for?
So we helping owners and general contractors to manage their operation and risk management on the field. What happened in the construction day to day, and while we're using mobile application, face verification, access control.
Well, let's start. So in the field management of construction, right? Right off the bat, different from most other programs. They were all about project management, right? So you started in the field and you said risk management. So what is the first thing that it is in the field?
You know who is the second largest subcontractor in a construction project?
Second largest.
The second largest?
Concrete superstructure?
The insurance company.
Got me.
Exactly. And today, when you manage a construction project, you have all the time in your mind, like what's going to happen with claims, insurance claim, my EMR, fraudulent insurance claim. So
wait, EMR is something score. What's their acronym? Do you remember?
So it's the number of claims.
Yes.
In compared to man hours on the construction.
And we're hearing it all day, right? Down in Florida, the cost of insurance is up. So you're saying, yes, the largest contractor, the most important is insurance. And insurance paralleling to the field is really risk management. People can't get hurt. People can't trip. They can't fall. So that's your biggest liability in the field.
Exactly.
Okay, so how did you attack it? Or, how did you even create technology to attack it?
So we are providing labor management software. Every worker on site is trained on board. I get his face through 2D photo, and I translate to 3D face verification on the site. It could be attached to a turnstile, could be attached to the wall, but eventually I know who is on site, how many workers I have, and to prevent from someone that's not supposed to be there.
So the first and foremost, it was an IoT product, right? It was an application, so you knew that anyone who walked on the site was supposed to be there, and whether they were confirmed, the hours, the OSHA requirements. So now you know everyone on the site,
exactly.
Right? And you were just lighting up that information, right? And there's a few competitors in that space, but that was your wedge into it.
Yeah, because when it's easy to use and easy to adopt, then you get real data, real visibility on what happened on site. And this is important because most of construction projects, they will tell you, look, I'm 30 years using pen and paper. All good. I built this building. I finish it. I went to pension. But today, the dynamic is changed. The risk is higher. And people in my age are now building the buildings. And they want to have better experience, better way to manage it than binders and pen and paper. And so if you want to attract the great talent to the project, this is how they want to manage it.
No, not only that, when that 30-year veteran leaves, all that data and information is gone, right? So now for the first time, you're lighting up the job site with data and information. Fine. So the first product was, we know who's on the site and what they're doing, right? But now I know it's a suite of services. So what else did you do?
So the entire operation, think about the Department of Building. They required each project in New York to do safety logs, super log, pre-shift, COI management, all of that covered in one comprehensive solution. Because
Wait, let's just go slower because some of the audience might understand. New York City is like a administrative nightmare. Nothing now to do with actually building the building, right? But what you said was they want to know employee log, who was there that day, visitation, safety log, right? Pre-task planning logs. And there's all these required logs by the Department of Buildings to be filled out each day. And historically, when I was on the jobs, they come and they always bang you out. You missed one day, right? Like violation, right? It doesn't matter. They come in and they remember the rooms used to be this reams of information and data, right? Like, and it was all paper. Yeah. So you're constantly, oh shit, do I have every drawing? Oh my God, right? So the next product you're saying is you now digitize that.
Exactly. And we did a partnership with the DOB to digitize. Few months ago, they would said, oh, you need to manage it by binders, by pen and paper. Now, they realize after several pilots with us that it saved them 40 minutes for each inspection if you use BiltOn on site. And this is tremendous. So said, okay, it's a win-win situation. The GC and the owner manage it in a much more efficient way and with visibility. And they are, as inspector, they also save time and could enforce more on the project.
Let me tell you something. The fact that you went to the Department of Buildings and you said, I'm going to fight the law, because usually the law wins, and you got them to agree that they would accept your application, that's unheard of. When was that?
Just now.
All right, but that took like 2-3 years, no?
2 years, yeah.
Obviously. They definitely were resistant to that type of change. So now they will accept your your application on site.
Yes.
So now you had to create a user interface, and you and I know when that user interface isn't operating properly, the human doesn't use it. So what was your secret to a user interface that was actually operable?
All the time I'll talk with my developer, the R&D team that's based in Israel. Think you are outside in the sun with the hard hat, offline mode, it doesn't work, then it needs to work. In the most difficult period, this is construction. You go underground, there is no signal, so you must have auto offline mode, which is very hard to build. You going up 30 stories, also no signal. You are in the sun, you can't see the screen. You need to adapt to construction, and this is all the time we're focused. It will be the great tool for the field. And I tell you what the trend in the US now is that the integration. It needs to integrate to your ERP, to the project management solution. It's so important, the integration to Procore and Autodesk. If it's not integrated, it's manual entry, and there is lots of mistake in the data. And once you have integration in all the way, it's improve all the workflows and create a lot of value.
Well, which is really interesting, because I just recently heard this interview, and it was an old school interview with Jeff Bezos, but right when he had started Amazon. And they said to him, they go, you don't know about books, and he became the #1 bookseller, right? You don't know about, logistics, and he's the #1 logistics company in the world, right? And you know what he said? It was the focus on the customer. So obviously that was super smart in saying that it was the reason for it is who's your customer, and your customer were the people in the field. Right?
Exactly.
Which is huge. Now, the next point you're making, which I think is fascinating, and we were talking about that before this interview when we said, you used to have to learn in construction technology a brand new set of rules, right? Try this project management software, and it was this Herculean task to get anyone to want to actually use the new application or the new software, whether it was Procore or whoever it is. Like, they have their processes, which is usually Excel, PDF, Gmail, and you're saying, no, do it all through another step by logging into here. And Procore was successful in, I guess, getting everyone to do it. And we don't know why. But now it's like, fine, you've learned Procore or you learned Gmail. It's all about the integration. The faster that they can actually use your product immediately is like everything today. And that's what all of the generative AIs need to learn and everyone else. So what was your reasoning for that? Or how did you get these integrations? And then what does it look like? Is it like a little tab, or is it like you have to learn a new language, or is it super simple?
So the integration, it's important it will speak the same language. So the Procore, the Autodesk, they are the ERP.
What does that stand for, ERP? Do you know?
ERP is like where you manage all your finance, contract, the database of the project and the company.
Yep.
And your resources.
Enterprise resource planning.
Oh,
Exactly.
thank you.
And so this is something that the people in the office use. But if you don't have valid information, data from the field, so the information within the office is not accurate. So we want to have all the time accurate data from the field. So we integrate first the labor management. Every worker is on site, it's assigned to a specific subcontractor, and this goes directly to the daily log in Procore. Then you have a new subcontractor in Procore, he has valid COI, it will go directly to Betty. And then we verify that this worker...
BiltOn, not Betty.
You're right. I need to get used to it.
So right, because if the information doesn't have the same common denominator across all of these applications, that is then an inefficiency in another data entry and input, and it needs to be seamless.
Exactly.
All right, so now you're picking up this data, and we've talked about it. It's who's on the job, and then basically their safety, and then the ability to record the information, administrative requirements for safety in the field. Now, what's that impact been on the insurance companies?
So we had a project in Brooklyn. I'm not going to tell the name of the construction managers. And previously...
Well, how many units? Tell us at least the size.
230 units.
So a big project.
Big
230
project,
units.
200 workers a day.
Yep.
Yeah, in Brooklyn. And the project before they did with us, they had 23 fraudulent claims. You know, the average deductible...
Yeah, tell us that. What's the average of claims on a project?
The average deductible for the CM and the owner for a project today between 25K to 30K. It means that for this project...
Deductible per claim, right? So just so our audience understands, is if there is a claim, an injury, the first 25 G's of legal, the first 25 G's of exploring what occurred, or experts, is on the contractor.
Exactly.
So, and then you said, what's the average amount? 22?
25 to 30 today.
So what is that, 30? So we're talking about 500 to 600 G's in cost just in determining that claim before your insurance company will pay for it on top of the premium you're paying. So we're talking about real money.
Exactly. So we saved them more than $500,000 on one project. They said, whoa.
How?
So there was face verification, access control. We prevent from workers enter to the job site, and they had few claims, but they know exactly that it's fraudulent claims because they said, oh, you weren't on site, we have all the logs, and it's just someone that tried to get them to pay for it, like what we call slip and fall insurance claim.
So that's wild, right? People wouldn't really realize just getting this low-hanging fruit is hundreds of thousands. Like, yeah, random people try to walk on a job site and fall. Non-OSHA, certified guys who don't, or whoever, 40 hours, you're not getting in. You're literally stopped, right? You're saying turnstile. Exactly. It either goes green or red. You literally tap it, can't get in because you don't have the valid credentials.
Exactly. And now the third layer on this protection is each subcontractor needs a valid certificate of insurance, or they call COI. But what happened, it's been managed in the office, and now we integrate it to the field. So I'm a worker related to a subcontractor, and I know if it has a valid certificate of insurance or not, and then I could also block information to the project. And this is something very interesting to the insurance company. They're willing to give premium credit, lower deductibles, but having this visibility on the projects, and this is tremendous.
Right, so let's talk about what it was, right? And I think what you're saying is true. In the office, my administrator is saying, hey, subcontractor plumber, I need to know that your insurance is valid. And during the contract, when you sign the contract, it's valid, right? And you vetted it, and you sent it into the insurance provider, and they're looking at it, and they're like, yep, coverage for this project, it's good. But anything could then change, right? And the information coming out of the office to getting to the field after a project started is inefficient. It just is. Like, you didn't know if the plumber's insurance was gone. You didn't know if he changed his insurance. It went from, something didn't have a hard hammer to a hard hammer. All these little things. And what you're saying, it's now instantaneous and they would be blocked, right? So you can't come on if you don't have valid insurance for that day in that moment.
Exactly. And today, especially when you have the wrap-up insurance, like the CSIP and the OSIP, it's like insurance that you
Which is contractor-controlled insurance policy, which means the general contractor is carrying the policy for all the subs and the owner, or an OSIP, owner-controlled insurance policy, where the owner is carrying it for the GC and the subs, right? Because it just seems to be more efficient, less expensive. Again, these are 50 to 100 companies, different insurances needing to be valid at any one moment when the guy walks through the door.
Exactly. And the amount of the deductibles could be $2 million per project because they're taking more on themselves and they will invest more and manage it. So now they'll have another tool how to manage it, and it's go with the wrap-up administrator to manage everything in a high synergy.
So what happened now? BiltOn, was there a direct cause and effect relationship now? How many projects have you now completed? Because you've been around.
3,000.
So now you have 3,000 projects with 3,000 projects worth of data. That value, are the GCs and the owners now saying to the insurance companies, are they going to their existing insurance company say, but I use BiltOn, and they're lowering? Or are there specific insurance companies that go, if you use BiltOn, we will lower?
So first, it started with the company that doing wrap-up. So they go to renew the wrap-up, and they bring us, and they get discount on premium when they renew the wrap-up. So talking about obviously the large companies doing like $1.2 billion for the next 2 years.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. The minimum for that, just so that our audience knows, is like you guaranteeing 150 to like 160 in gross receipts annually. These are not the mid-market guys. These are the monsters.
Exactly. But you already see that everyone that's using it reduce more than $500,000 just on deductibles, which become 250% up in the last few years. It was $10K around 2-3 years ago, and especially in New York, it's a real problem to have on a project.
Wow, that's incredible. All right, so we get the product, right? So I got a question for you. So where is it going? Where do you go from now? Now you're on 3,000 projects. You're saving money. People are now being required to use you. What does the future hold? Where do you go from here?
So a lot of the aspect, and it's not a specific problem in New York City, it's more Florida, Texas, other regions that the labor shortage problem. So they want to track all the trends on the labor, how many people I have on site, but by trades, see the threads. I have 50 people, then it went to 30 when there is a pickup. So we want to give them the visibility and the action item about, hey, there is a fever on the project. You need to see what happened on site and give them more visibility about how to analyze the data, how to give them action items from those tools, and especially important today on owner, because today, you know better than me, 80% of the project are owner that partner with CM with risk. It means that they are partners. They all have the same liability. They need to work together. The owner has much more liability to make sure that they have enough people on site. Everything is compliant.
They got to hit the dates.
Yeah. So if you want to finish your project on time and on your budget, my main metric as a former project manager, and I grew up on construction site, that you need to know that you have enough people to finish the project. And this has become most painful, especially we're working in Florida. Every day they switch in subs. You could have 100 workers on the job site. They will switch 2,000 different people just to finish this job. And this creates a lot of pain. So we have like a project doing like one of the highest tower in Miami. They were in delay one year. So they took us in the middle of the project and they closed most of the gap because they were in control. Who is on site? What I need more? I need superstructure workers more. They all the time had the visibility, and this is.
So that's fascinating. Like, you know, we talk about all the time. Like, what's the wedge? Like, you know, like how do you get your company on site to then be able to expand to the other solutions that are required out there? Well, one of them was site safety, right? You attack that, you get in there, now you're there. So now you're the party who can now expand into other services, and you're like, no, now we want to understand the critical path. And there's a lot of companies we see out there trying to attack it. Their problem is getting on site. You have that access already. It's almost as if you've become the gatekeeper of getting on site. And there's some really cool tech out there for like different types of efficiencies and, you know, where workers are working and what they can achieve. But how do they get on the site? they go through you, right?
Exactly.
So you were saying, which I think is a great segue into, like, why you and why did you get into this business? You know, you said you briefly that you were a contractor. You know, contractors getting into tech is kind of rare. Why you?
So I'm actually fourth generation of builders, and I was a project manager for in Europe, and I built residential tower. And
Where is that? Where was that?
in Warsaw, Poland. And from the day-to-day on the field, you manage the staff now, you manage the operation, and everything was done in pen and paper. And at the same time, my other friends were working in other industry. They have mobile application, they have dashboards, they have reports, and said, why it's different in our industry?
Because we're laggard and we're behind and we never want to change and we're like Neanderthals. Yeah, I say it all the time.
So I went back to Israel and partnered with my co-founders from the army and said, okay.
But what was his skill set? What was his complementary skill set?
So
If you were the domain expertise, what was he?
So they were more on the tech side, built automotive before, were designers or come from a large business scale. So everyone was his angle of contribute to the team, but we were very focused on the experience of it will be easy to use, easy to adopt, then we'll solve it. So we build the product from bottom up and not up down, not what the VP construction want to have on the dashboard and then let's enforce it on the field. No, it was the other way, how it will be used on the site, we'll have data, and then we could utilize it to the dashboards and all the insight, because eventually the VP construction they will use it, and it will create value both to the management level, but also to the field.
So I always find it interesting in founders, well, what made you fearless? Why were you had no problem getting into a sector that you didn't understand, and you're just like, F it, I'm going to change this space, and then, you know, it'll come from the field, which I think was by far a great idea, and it obviously worked. But why were you fearless? Why did it, where does that come from?
I assume it's related to my military service. I served in special forces in the IDF, and we went through a lot of things. So I think like you go by a long journey.
Yeah, this isn't, you're not getting shot at. Who cares, right? This is just life. This is nothing, you know?
Yeah.
That's so funny. I always say to like the Americans, I'm always like, you know, hard to compete, you know? You have to sort of get into that mindset. But yeah, obviously fear is not going to be the issue when you have to like deal with real life and death. So this is not life and death, I get. So let me ask you, where do you stand today? How big is the company? And you don't have to give me like specific. Are you B round? Are you, 3,000 today and you're 10,000 tomorrow? Like, give our audience the understanding of how large of a company you were and how fast you got to this space.
So we founded the company in 2018, and we started bootstrap. It means that no external funding until end of 2022. Then we did Series A of $11 million. It was a year after we expanded to the US. And last week we announced about Series B of another $15 million led by PSG Equity. It's a fund based in Boston, one of the largest funds in the US. They manage $20 billion.
But what are they? Are they construction tech? Are they healthcare? Like what? They're just generalist.
B2B, SaaS, growth equity, focus on growth software company. And they are both in the US and also have office in Israel, so they know us from all the spectrum. And it's and we have office in New York, in Brooklyn, one in Fort Lauderdale in Florida. We serve the entire East Coast, mainly New York, New Jersey, DC, Boston, and Florida. Working with E&R companies, which is a big focus for us as well.
What's E&R?
E&R companies, the top 400 companies in construction.
Oh, E&R, whatever that acronym is. All right, so you prefer to go big down, even though that's not how you started.
Right. So we are all the time working on mid-market.
Yeah.
This is where we started. Yeah. And the last year and a half, we shifted more to the E&R companies, serving, with different set of skills, like you must have open API and other security. So we complete the ISO 27001. It's something that you can't do as a small startup.
Wait, say that again so I understand. Because you did start I remember you were in Brooklyn, 50-unit project. And now you're like, no, we'd prefer to attack the top. But why? Why is I get it. Are they more willing to experiment? No.
Yes.
the larger companies are more willing to experiment?
They have an innovation team. They're doing the most interesting project that they have requirements. So if you build a data center to Amazon, you must have a solution like BiltOn. There's no question of if you're going to do it or not. It's in the budget. And so, for example, we're doing the new port of Miami, $500 million project, 1,000 workers every day. So this is like a very unique project that you want to be there.
So you're saying it's, you know, the scalability, the limitation is it still takes a little bit to implement. You might, and if it takes the same amount of time, I better go big.
Yeah.
Instead of, do you think you'll get inexpensive enough or the implementation will be efficient enough to then come back to the mid-market? Because, you know, us mid-market guys, everyone leaves us, you know, we need you back.
No, we have a full dedicated team in New York that serve the mid-market, and we're expanding every month with more customers. So obviously we're not gonna, this is our bread and butter. We all the time think about new channel, new line of business, how to develop the product. So we're going.
So what's the look ahead though? Is it that now you should be in America, right? You should have this product. And now how do you deal with the changing code and zoning resolutions per municipality? Obviously OSHA is federal, that doesn't change. But how do you deal with the local?
So when we shift from Israel to the US, we already built an open platform. You could shift between different regions, fully customized. I'll give you an example. Last December, there was a new regulation in Boston that applied to, how you manage safety on the project. And this is like, let's adapt to the Boston market. And now we are serving the Boston market as well, working with Consigli, for example. And you all the time need to adapt. And this is our power, because if you have local laws, and we are more tailored to those local laws, so this is give us more advantage in compared to the large players.
Okay, so let's get back to this. So now everyone wants to know about Gen AI, and how are you using or incorporating any type of AI into your existing platform?
So today we are still under research. There is a lot of verticals that you see.
Tons.
It's we still think it's like just starting. It's a buzzword. You know, the same customer that spoke with us. Oh, are we gonna move from pen and paper to BiltOn? And now they said, oh, and what about AI? But I think that we want to leverage our data. This is the most important. How we could give much more action items, automation of the process, and there is a lot of capability around how you could improve the life on the field, from taking photos and get the data, and a lot of other stuff that you analyze what happened on site. And even if you're not a very senior and experienced project manager, because you have the Gen AI, you could leverage that on the field. So
no, I agree, right? And I was going to say, one thing is, you know, you need to read the municipality's latest building codes. You can just say, what are the field impacts, and ask it. It could lay it out for you, and you could reprogram it. But I think what you're saying is exactly right. Like, people don't understand. Construction information is being uploaded or used from every different common denominator: PDF, Excel, AutoCAD, BIM, right? Like every Outlook emails, Gmail, right? It's all this data isn't used together. It's all disparate. Yes, eventually AI will allow it to all be in its same language and then give you insights. And what you said is exactly right. If you have the data for the training model, right, you'll start asking which sites had more injuries than others and why, right? But like, it's starting to come. You're saying, you know, you're just not changing it just yet, right?
And who are the ones that expected to have more injuries? This has become more interesting, because based on the data, on the trend, who is going to be with more injuries before it's happened? And this is, I think, the main power of AI when you have 3,000 construction data, and this is where it's become interesting.
You mean per company, or you're saying per trade? Like that information about who could have an injury or not, will it be sort of like, you know, Chinese like social credits? You're going to be like, nah, don't work with that company, charge them more? Or is it going to be more like, well, when the plumber comes after the electrician on the 18th floor, be careful because it seems to be like an issue there?
More specific on subcontractor and trends on the project.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Because then, you know, there's going to be like two massive builders and everyone else is going to be like, you know, shit out of luck, SOL. Well, that's like really cool. And, you know, I was super excited because I saw how fast you were growing and you were getting all of this traction. So what are the next markets you're going to start to open up?
Chicago, California are the next on the map.
Now, what do you think about, just from a macro perspective, all of these other municipalities are starting to get rocked by interest rates and the rest of it, right? Like, do you see that the amount of new projects is slowing down? I'm talking about from macro, not you getting on them, but just the overall opportunities are becoming less?
Yes, definitely. In New York, it's crazy. Well, what happened the last 2 years, the drop in the new permits, like, if you take Q3, how many projects open in New York above $25 million? We just did this analyze. It's 30 projects. That's all. It's New York.
So now, but the thing that is difficult is you're penetrating the market into these new marketplaces. Even if they don't have it, you're just taking, projects that didn't have your product, but eventually you'll cover the market and then you'll start to see, like, you got to go where the new projects are coming.
Exactly. So this is why we went to Florida a year ago, because there's so much construction over there, and so we want to be on the healthy markets.
Agreed. Well, listen, I think what you're doing is fascinating and is working, right? Because I think a lot of people forgot, like, that it actually has to work and give insights. And you're like, look, when you use our product, it becomes less expensive and you have less risk, and the insurance companies are seeing it. It's like, that's a recipe for success. So the last thing I always like to ask founders is, what do you do outside of this in order to stay calm, cool, and chill? What are your activities or hobbies beyond working all the time?
Like I did this weekend, going to hike with the kids on the fall. That's keeps your mind
right?
Yeah.
Well, Omer, I really appreciate you coming on. And what's the new, tell everyone where they're going to find you. We knew it before it was Betty, but now it's called BiltOn. So what are the websites? Where are they finding on social? Where can they find you?
So the new website is BiltOn Tech, built.tech, our office in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. And also we are in LinkedIn, very active there, and we'll be happy to meet all of you. And thank you so much for
Of course, brother. And I think that a testament to how cool you are. You're in Williamsburg, so that audience beyond New York doesn't realize these offices are also in the coolest spot. All right, man, I hope to see you in the field. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
You got it, brother. As I told you, as Real Tech Talk expands, we can't invest in all these companies, but this one is a medicine. Just a few years ago, they're on some sites in Brooklyn. Now they're up to 3,000 sites. Why? It's actually changing what's occurring in the field. Less people are being hurt. That's the incorporation of technology doing something that's a redundant task. The future is just that. How you're going to create efficiencies, lighting up data to make small incremental decision-making changes. And you know what happened? Less money on insurance. They're going big. They just raised more capital. That is a company. That is a medicine. Real Tech Talk. Peace, son.